All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are going deep on something I think you're going to find pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Emotional intelligence.
I love it.
You know that secret sauce some people just seem to have that helps them kind of navigate the ups and downs of life, with maybe a little more finesse than the rest of us.
For sure.
So we're going to talk about, is there more to being smart than just your typical IQ?
Well, and that's what's so fascinating about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
It really suggests that success isn't just about, book smarts, right?
Right, yeah.
It's also about this ability to understand and manage emotions, both yours and the people around you.
For sure. And we've got some really cool stuff to unpack today.
Yes, we do.
We've got excerpts from An Introduction to Emotional Intelligence from the Technological University of Dublin.
Great source.
And then Emotional Intelligence, an overview
Yeah.
by Dr. Manoranjan Tripathi.
Absolutely. And, they paint a really interesting picture of how this whole concept even evolved.
Yeah.
It might seem like a new buzzword,
Right.
but it's actually been kind of simmering for a while.
It has. And it's funny because when you think about it, even way back in the early 1900s,
Wow.
you've got psychologists like Thorndike and Wexler who are already picking up on this idea that success in life wasn't just about acing those tests,
Yeah.
They saw that being able to understand people and, handle social situations, there was a different kind of intelligence at play.
Well, and Thorndike even coined the term social intelligence
Oh, wow.
to describe this. And then Wexler, the guy behind the famous IQ test,
Right.
he started to emphasize the importance of things like how you manage your emotions, how you
Yeah.
handle relationships.
Yeah.
So it's like they were laying the groundwork for what we now call emotional intelligence.
Totally. It's like they were ahead of their time, right?
Yeah.
But then things really seemed to take off in the 80s and 90s with folks like Howard Gardner and Daniel Goleman.
Oh, absolutely. Gardner, with his theory of multiple intelligences, just blew open the door.
He did.
He said, hey, there's not just one type of intelligence.
Yeah.
There are many. And two of those that he talked about were intrapersonal and interpersonal intelligence.
Okay.
And basically being self-aware and skilled in relationships.
Right.
And those ideas were huge in getting the ball rolling on how we view emotional intelligence today.
Absolutely. And then Goleman comes along with his book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ.
Yes.
And suddenly everyone is talking about it.
Right.
It's like he took this complex idea and made it accessible for the rest of us.
Goleman's work was pivotal in popularizing this concept.
It was.
It's like he was saying, hey, being book smart is great, but being able to understand and manage your emotions, that can be even more important for how your life turns out.
Right. And I think this is where we run into, this interesting kind of conundrum, which is that there's no single universally accepted definition of emotional intelligence.
That's true.
It's almost like everyone's kind of trying to, capture this slippery concept in their own way.
Well, there are a lot of different perspectives out there.
Right.
Some researchers like Salovey and Mayer, they see it as the ability to monitor and use emotions
Okay.
to guide your thinking and actions.
Right.
Others, like Dr. Reuven Bar-On, they view it as this set of skills that help you cope with everyday challenges and pressures.
So it's not just about being touchy-feely, right?
Well.
It's about using those emotions intelligently,
Yeah.
like being able to read a room or figure out what someone's not saying, or even just understanding why you react the way you do in certain situations.
Exactly. And then there are groups like the 6 Seconds team.
Okay.
They focus on using emotional intelligence to actually create positive outcomes in your relationships with yourself and others.
I like that.
Even Wikipedia defines it as managing emotions
Okay.
in yourself, in others, and even in entire groups.
Wow. So we're talking on a micro and macro level here.
Yeah, that's a broad concept.
It really is. And it kind of reminds me of, when you're trying to define happiness, it's like everyone's got a slightly different take on it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely this common thread running through all of them, right?
That's right.
It's like this understanding and managing.
Your own emotions and the emotions of those around you.
Yeah, and that brings us to, I think, one of the big debates in the field,
Right.
which is emotional intelligence something you're born with? Like your eye color?
Yeah.
Or is it something that you can develop and improve over time?
The nature versus nurture debate.
Totally. So is it kind of like musical talent, you
Yeah.
know, where some people just seem to have a natural ear for it
Right.
and others have to work a little harder?
Yeah, there are two main models that have emerged.
Okay.
One is ability-based and the other is trait-based.
Okay.
The ability-based models view emotional intelligence as a mental ability that you're largely born with.
So kind of like, processing speed.
Yeah, think of it like processing speed for emotions.
Okay.
It's something that can be measured through performance tests.
So some people might just be naturally gifted
Right.
at reading emotions. Like they've got this built-in emotional radar.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then there's the trait-based model, which sees emotional intelligence as a personality characteristic
Right.
that's shaped by your experiences.
So this is where nurture comes in.
Exactly. Your upbringing, your relationships,
Yeah.
even the challenges that you face, all of these can influence your emotional intelligence.
So according to this view, it's not fixed.
Right.
It's something you can actually work on and get better at.
Absolutely.
That's encouraging.
It is.
Yeah.
And just to make things even more interesting, some researchers propose these mixed models that combine elements of both.
Oh, wow. So it's like acknowledging that nature and nurture both play a role.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, so we've got these different models, but how does that actually translate into like tests? Like, are there different tests for the different models?
You bet. And because there are different ways of understanding emotional intelligence, there are different ways to measure it.
Right.
So some tests will focus on your ability to perform certain tasks related to emotions, while others rely more on your self-perception of your emotional skills.
Okay.
It's really important to remember that no single test can fully capture something as complex as emotional intelligence.
It's true. And I think this is, we're dealing with a little bit of a puzzle here.
Right.
We've got lots of different pieces, lots of different perspectives.
Yeah.
But let's step back for a second and think about the bigger picture.
Okay.
Like, why should anyone care about emotional intelligence in the first place?
Yeah, what's the big deal?
What's the big deal?
Right.
Well, and the sources that we're looking at today point to some pretty compelling answers. They suggest that people with greater emotional intelligence tend to have an edge in a lot of areas of life.
That's right.
Think about it. If you're good at reading people's emotions, understanding your own reactions, and communicating effectively, wouldn't that make your relationships smoother,
Absolutely.
your work life more successful, and just generally make you a better equipped human being?
It's a valuable asset for sure.
It is, but let's dive into those benefits in more detail.
Okay.
What are some of the specific advantages that emotional intelligence can bring to the table?
Well, first of all, welcome back to the deep dive.
So give me the elevator pitch for emotional intelligence.
Well, first of all, think about your relationships, both personal and professional.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence can be a real game changer here.
Okay.
Imagine being able to truly understand your partner's perspective, even when you disagree,
Yeah.
or diffuse a tense situation at work before it blows up.
Right.
That's the kind of magic that emotional intelligence can bring to the table.
So it's not just about avoiding arguments,
No?
right? It's about being able to build stronger, more authentic connections with the people in your life.
Exactly.
Okay, who wouldn't want that?
Right.
Yeah.
And those stronger connections lead to better communication.
Okay.
Emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
it gives you the tools to not only express yourself clearly,
Right.
but also to really listen and understand what the other person's trying to say, even if they're not saying it directly.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. It's like emotional intelligence helps you become a more skillful communicator.
It does.
Able to navigate, those tricky interpersonal situations that we all encounter from time to time.
Absolutely. And that navigation is made a lot easier because emotional intelligence also helps you develop greater empathy and self-awareness.
Okay.
It's about understanding yourself better.
Yeah.
Your strengths, your weaknesses, what pushes your buttons, and being able to extend that same understanding to others.
I love that. It's like emotional intelligence gives you this superpower to connect with people on a deeper level.
It does.
It's not just about, surface level interactions anymore.
And let's not forget about the impact on your own well-being.
Right.
The sources we're diving into today, they actually suggest that greater emotional intelligence is linked to reduced stress and increased resilience.
Okay, that's definitely something I need more of in my life.
I think we all do.
Right? Like, stress seems to be everywhere these days.
It does.
So how does emotional intelligence actually help us manage stress better?
Well, it all comes back to understanding and managing your emotions.
Okay.
By becoming more aware of your own emotional responses and developing strategies to cope with them effectively,
Right.
you're less likely to get overwhelmed by stress
Makes sense.
You're better equipped to handle those difficult situations, bounce back from setbacks, and just maintain a more positive outlook even when things get tough.
So it's like having a built-in shock absorber for life's bumps and bruises.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of bumps and bruises,
Oh.
the research also suggests a link between emotional intelligence and career success.
Okay.
If you can navigate office politics, build strong relationships with colleagues,
Right.
and inspire your team, you're much more likely to thrive in the workplace.
So it's not just about feeling good.
Right.
It's also about performing well.
Exactly.
It seems like emotional intelligence can really give you an edge in a competitive world.
It's definitely a valuable asset.
Okay, I'm sold.
But-
But what if you weren't born with, like, off-the-charts emotional intelligence?
Well, the good news is
Okay.
the research suggests that you can actually boost it
Okay.
with effort and the right approach.
So it's kind of like learning a new language or
Yeah.
picking up a musical instrument.
Absolutely.
It takes practice, but it's doable.
It is.
Okay, now we're talking.
Right.
Let's break this down a little further.
Okay.
If someone wants to improve their emotional intelligence, where do they even begin? Right.
What are some concrete steps that they can take?
Self-awareness is always a great starting point.
Okay.
It's like shining a light on your own emotional landscape, you know?
Yeah.
Becoming more aware of how you react in different situations. Understanding what triggers certain emotions in you.
So it's like becoming a curious observer of your own inner world.
I love that.
Yeah.
And once you start paying attention to your emotions, you can start to identify patterns,
Right.
understand your triggers,
Mm-hmm.
and develop strategies for managing those emotions more effectively.
Okay.
And that's where self-regulation comes in.
Self-regulation.
Yeah, the ability to kind of hit the pause button on your emotions before you react.
So it's not about suppressing our emotions,
No,
right? It's about becoming more skillful drivers of our emotional experiences.
exactly.
Okay.
Think about those times when you react impulsively in the heat of the moment. Maybe you say something you later regret,
Oh, yeah.
or make a decision that you wish you could take back.
That's where self-regulation can really make a difference.
Okay.
By consciously pausing, taking a few deep breaths,
Right.
stepping away from the situation if possible.
Yeah.
You give yourself a chance to process your emotions, think things through, and choose a more thoughtful response.
It's like creating that space
Yes.
between stimulus and response.
That's it.
That moment where we can exercise our emotional intelligence and make a choice about how we want to respond.
Exactly. That space is where your power lies.
I like that.
It's where you can choose to react in a way that aligns with your values, your goals, and the kind of person you want to be.
It makes me think about, those classic anger management techniques like counting to 10
Yeah.
before you say something you might regret.
It's the same principle at work.
Right.
You're interrupting that automatic knee-jerk reaction and giving yourself a chance to choose a more constructive path.
Okay.
And there are other techniques you can use too.
Like what?
Reframing, for example.
Reframing. What's that?
It's about consciously choosing to look at a situation from a different perspective.
Okay.
So imagine you're stuck in traffic
Oh, the worst.
and you're feeling incredibly frustrated.
Right.
Instead of focusing on the negative, the time you're wasting the
Yeah.
other drivers,
Uh-huh.
you could try reframing the situation as an opportunity to listen to your favorite podcast,
Okay.
catch up on phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
or just enjoy some quiet time to yourself.
Okay. So it's like choosing to look at the bright side.
Yeah.
Finding that silver lining in the traffic jam cloud.
Precisely. And reframing isn't about denying your emotions.
Right.
It's about acknowledging them and then choosing to focus on a more positive or productive aspect of the situation.
Okay.
It's like training your brain to find those hidden opportunities, even in the midst of challenges.
So we've got pausing and reframing, two powerful techniques for building up our self-regulation muscles.
Absolutely.
What other strategies do we have in our emotional intelligence toolkit?
Well, one that's often overlooked, but incredibly important, is self-care.
Ooh, self-care. That sounds like a recipe for a spa day.
Well, it could be.
Okay.
But self-care is really about anything that helps you feel refreshed, recharged, and better equipped to handle life's stressors. Think of it as preventative maintenance for your emotional well-being.
Okay, so it's about finding those activities that fill your cup
Yeah,
and make you feel more balanced and resilient.
exactly. And what works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
The key is to be mindful of your own needs and prioritize those activities that truly nourish you, both physically and emotionally.
Right, so we've got pausing, reframing, and self-care.
Mm-hmm.
All great strategies for managing our own emotions.
Absolutely.
But what about those situations where other people's emotions come into play?
Right.
How can emotional intelligence help us navigate those tricky social dynamics?
Well, that's where social awareness and relationship management come in.
Okay.
They're like the next levels of emotional intelligence. And empathy is the key that unlocks both of those.
Empathy, that ability to, really step into someone else's shoes and understand their perspective, even if it's like totally different from your own.
Right.
It sounds so simple, but it can be surprisingly hard to do sometimes.
You're right. It doesn't always come naturally.
Yeah.
But like any skill,
Yeah.
empathy can be developed with practice.
Okay.
And it all starts with becoming a better listener.
Okay.
And I don't just mean hearing the words that someone is saying.
Right.
It's about really tuning into what's going on beneath the surface.
So like active listening.
Exactly.
It's like turning on your emotional radar and paying attention to all those subtle cues that people give off, like their tone of voice, their body language, even like the silences between words.
All of it.
Yeah.
And as you become more attuned to those nonverbal cues,
Right.
you can start to ask clarifying questions, reflect back what you're hearing,
Okay.
and show that you're genuinely trying to understand their point of view.
It's like building a bridge of connection between you and the other person.
A bridge built on empathy. I love that.
Right?
And that kind of communication is essential for building strong and healthy relationships.
It is.
But there's another piece to the puzzle when it comes to relationships.
Okay, what's that?
Appreciation.
Appreciation, you mean like remembering to say thank you?
Well, it's definitely a part of it,
Okay.
but it goes deeper than that.
Right.
It's about truly recognizing the value that others bring to our lives and taking the time to express that appreciation genuinely.
Right.
It's about making people feel seen, valued,
Yeah.
appreciated for who they are and what they contribute.
So it's not just about words.
Right.
It's about like making people feel appreciated on like a deeper level.
Exactly.
And I can see how that would make a big difference in any relationship.
It really does. When people feel appreciated, they're more likely to feel connected, motivated,
Yeah.
and willing to contribute their best.
Yeah.
It's like you're feeding the relationship,
Yeah.
nurturing it, helping it grow stronger.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, active listening,
Yeah.
communication, appreciation.
It's a lot.
It's like we're piecing together this whole new way of understanding ourselves and our interactions with the world.
It's a powerful way of being in the world, for sure.
It is, but even with all of these tools and strategies,
Yeah.
we haven't talked about one crucial ingredient
Okay.
that can make or break our efforts to be more emotionally intelligent.
What's that?
What is it?
Motivation.
Motivation.
Even with all the knowledge and skills in the world,
Yeah.
you won't get very far if you're not motivated to put them into practice.
It's like having a fancy sports car, but leaving it parked in the garage. It's
Exactly.
all that potential, but it's not going anywhere without some fuel in the tank.
And when it comes to emotional intelligence, motivation comes from connecting to something larger than yourself, something that gives your life meaning and purpose.
So you're talking about like finding your purpose, that sense of knowing like why you're here
Right.
and what you're meant to contribute to the world.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
It is.
And there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
For some people, their purpose might be clear from a young age, but for others, it might take some exploration and experimentation.
Makes sense.
It might involve trying new things,
Yeah.
reflecting on your values and passions,
Right.
or simply paying attention to what brings you joy and a sense of fulfillment.
It's like we're all detectives searching for clues.
I love that.
Right.
Clues that point us towards our unique contribution to the world.
Exact.
And sometimes those clues can be found in the most unexpected places.
Yeah, it's true.
It might be a volunteer opportunity, a creative hobby, a connection with nature, or even a conversation with someone who inspires you.
Yeah.
The key is to stay curious, keep exploring, and trust that you'll find your way.
So finding your purpose is a key to staying motivated.
Mm-hmm.
But are there other things we can do
Sure.
to kind of keep that emotional intelligence engine running smoothly?
Absolutely. Surrounding yourself with positive and supportive people is crucial.
Okay.
The people we spend time with have a huge impact on our energy, our outlook, and our motivation.
That's true.
When we're surrounded by people who believe in us, encourage us, and lift us up, we're much more likely to feel motivated to pursue our goals and just be our best selves.
So it's like having your own personal cheerleading squad.
I love that.
Right? Like rooting for you every step of the way.
Yes. And on the flip side, if we're constantly around negative or critical people,
Yeah.
it can really drain our energy
It can.
and make it hard to stay motivated.
Yeah, it's like those negative vibes are weighing us down.
Exactly. So it's important to be mindful of your social circle. Nurture the relationships that bring you joy and support, and set boundaries with those that leave you feeling drained or depleted. And this applies to your online interactions too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Be selective about the accounts you follow, the groups you join, and the content that you consume.
It's like we're curating our own emotional ecosystem,
Exactly.
both online and offline.
Yes. Weeding out the negativity and making space for the positive influences to flourish.
I like that. And don't forget to celebrate your wins along the way.
That's so important.
Right.
It doesn't have to be anything big or fancy.
Yeah.
You know, it could be as simple as acknowledging a small victory or giving yourself credit for the effort that you're putting in.
It's like giving yourself a little pat on the back.
Exactly.
Recognizing those small steps forward that keep you moving in the right direction.
And remember, setbacks are a part of the journey.
They are.
Don't let them derail you.
Right.
Instead, view them as opportunities for learning and growth. Each time you face a challenge and overcome it, you build resilience and strength.
So it's all about adopting a growth mindset.
Yeah.
Embracing those challenges as stepping stones on the path to becoming more emotionally intelligent.
Precisely. When you approach life with that growth mindset,
Yeah.
you're more likely to stay motivated,
Right.
persevere through tough times, and ultimately achieve your goals.
Wow, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've explored so much, the history of emotional intelligence, the different models and definitions, the benefits, the practical strategies for developing it, and the importance of motivation.
That's a lot.
I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of what it means to be emotionally intelligent.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Me too. And, on that note, I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Okay.
Now that you've learned more about the power of emotional intelligence, what one small step can you take today to cultivate more of it in your own life?
Yeah.
Maybe it's practicing active listening, taking a few minutes for self-care,
Yeah.
or simply noticing your emotional reactions without judgment.
Every journey begins with a single step,
It does.
and even small changes can make a big difference over time.
That's true.
So keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep growing.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of emotional intelligence.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time for another adventure in learning and discovery.